Good evening and welcome to the Rutherford County School Board meeting. This is August the 18th of 2016. With the board's indulgence tonight, I'm going to lead the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, the board will invite you, or does invite you, to join us in a moment of silence. And tonight, during our moment, we're asking you to please remember Kobe Kavionkon family. Kobe was a student at Smyrna West and died in a car accident just a few days ago. So if you would, share a moment with the board. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our thoughts and prayers certainly go out to Kobe's family. Of course, we met in a regular work session last night and covered a lot of this material. Approval of the agenda. Mr. Young and Ms. Moore, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Estes and Mr. Young. Again, thank you. Discussion. We had quite a bit last evening. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is consent agenda is approved. And visitors, we have a few. Call your name up and certainly want to welcome you and the opportunity to speak before the board. We would ask you to introduce yourself with your full name and your address. And we give you 3 minutes, and there's a little signal, that green light, to tell you when to go, and we'll give you a warning as to about the time to stop, and then a red light to stop. So we have several to talk and quite a bit of board business. So our first speaker tonight is Cynthia Smith. Next is Cole Eisenbarger. Welcome.
My name is Cole Eisenbarger. I live at 3111 Wellington Place, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I'm talking about our Blackman Seminary request for the fee waiver for the use of classroom in Blackman High to conduct a seminary class. The seminary class meets every weekday and starts at 6:15 a.m. This requires me personally as a teacher to, without any compensation, make many sacrifices, including time spent preparing lesson plans, getting up to be at class early, traveling to training sessions in Franklin, and so forth. But the reason that I'm willing to do that and to give up that time out of my schedule is because I'm continually impressed by these kids back here. They have the desire to become better people, to bring light into the lives of those around them, and to become valued members of their communities, which is why they are attending our class to study the New Testament. The fact that these kids are willing to get up at 5-something every morning before school shows and that's when they're already worn out from rigorous academic schedules, sports, Boy Scouts, and other activities, demonstrates how much this seminary class means to them. Especially as a teenager, it's much easier to just turn off your alarm clock in the morning. But I know because, like them, I attended this seminary class when I was in high school. My own experiences in seminary through my 4 years of high school solidified my commitment to living a Christian life. They prepared me for my post-graduation missionary service when I lived in Russia for 2 years, doing nothing but missionary work. And many of the kids in our class will actually go on to do the same, dedicating 2 years of their life to missionary service right after high school. And this seminary class actually helps them to secure ecclesiastical certifications to get visa approvals to go to countries like Brazil and Russia. And it also figures into their applications for Brigham Young University, which is not only respected around the world as a great educational institution, but a very common destination for LDS youth. With this opportunity for them to study the Bible and to study how they can become more Christ-like, I hope you all can see the incredible benefits that this class offers to the bright youth. We're so grateful to the Blackman High School, who for the past 6 years has allowed us to conduct this class in one of their classrooms, to study the scriptures and inspire these kids to strive to live their lives like Christ each and every day. We understand that a new policy has been enacted that makes this class not financially feasible for us to conduct. As I said, I'm not receiving compensation. They don't pay anything to take the class. There's no money exchanging hands. But I hope that you will weigh the kids' lost opportunities favorably against the otherwise non-existent revenue that this policy would have generated. We hope that they will be allowed the opportunity to continue their development into upstanding and productive citizens of not only Murfreesboro, but the word of large.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tad Ellsworth. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I too would like to second what Mr. Eisenbarger.
Address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tad Ellsworth. My name's Tad Ellsworth, 427 Carmel Drive, over by Blackman High School.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to second what Cole Eisenbarger has said. I have been a teacher there for the last 3 years. The students have been going there for the last 6. We do not receive any money from these students, and we are not paid, nor are do the students pay any money to attend this class. So really, we don't have money to give out. It's all voluntary. And so I would just ask you to please consider waiving the fee for this class because of Cole pretty much stated all the benefits of what we have in that class. So again, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Burton. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you all. Kevin Burton, 1355 Middlebury Court here in Murfreesboro. And I am the bishop of the Blackman Ward, and so the congregation that many of these individuals that are here attend for church services on any given Sunday or the youth activities and whatnot. And so I'm not going to elaborate anything more besides what Mr. Eisenbarger and Mr. Ellsworth have said. Is more so just appreciation of what Blackman High School has allowed for the last 6 years. As a leader of a congregation, and as a father, I have appreciated very much Dr. Justice and those sponsoring teachers. As has been mentioned, like many of the youth that we have in society, these are wonderful kids. They are trying to become outstanding citizens and be able to be good leaders and good individuals in the community as they become adults. And part of this class is what helps do that, and it helps supplement what they are learning in their academic life and having that spiritual side along with academia. So appreciate your consideration. We know that you all have a commitment and a job to do, and we are aware of that, but definitely, if the fee could be waived, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mackenzie Fowler. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Mackenzie Fowler, 4958 Clover Hill Drive in Murfreesboro. My son Landon is a 15-year-old sophomore at Blackman High School. I'm very proud of Landon. He is a state-ranked wrestler and carries a 4.0 GPA while taking honors and advanced classes. While I am proud of those things, I am most proud of what type of person he wants to be and the sacrifice he makes to become that. Every weekday morning, around 5:45, when it is still dark outside, his alarm clock goes off. While the rest of the house and neighborhood are still sleeping, he gets up, jumps in the shower, gets dressed, and grabs a bite to eat, hopefully something remotely healthy. By 6:30 a.m., he, along with about 20 other kids, are headed to what we refer to as seminary. Seminary is a 50-minute scripture study class taught by parents from our local congregation who volunteer with no pay. Last year, the students studied the Old Testament, and this year they are studying the New Testament. Seminary will not make my son or any of these other kids Bible scholars. That's not the goal. However, one of the stated goals of seminary is to develop Christ-like attributes in the kids that will make them honorable and productive students and members of the community. Specifically, seminary encourages kids to be humble, obedient, kind, courageous, selfless, and full of love. I am grateful that Landon has seminary to reinforce the development of those attributes. He wakes up every day when most of the rest of us are sleeping because those things are important to him too. I know there is a new provision that requires a fee to be paid to use a school classroom. I am sure there is good reason for that. As a general rule, I am not in favor of exceptions to rules, except in one condition, and that is if the rule is getting in the way of something better. This is a case in which a well-intentioned rule, if maintained, is going to hinder a group of high school kids trying to better themselves by studying the scriptures each day before school even starts. The classroom is going to be empty anyway. Please consider if we can fill it with a couple of dozen kids without paying the fee. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, too. And Cynthia Smith. Did Cynthia Smith come in? Okay. Of course, as you have already recognized, this is a policy that has just been enacted here recently for facility use. Ms. McLeod, since you were involved in the committee and as staff attorney, of course, we've adopted a policy, and I don't believe there is a waiver and exemption opportunity. Am I correct?
The policy does incorporate a few exceptions that could apply for the exemption from fees. Unfortunately, this group does not qualify under those exceptions, and so it's been placed on the agenda tonight for approval with the applicable fees applied.
Okay.
But there is no appeal process or other process.
What I would recommend, if you would like to stay after the meeting and talk with the board, of course, we'll be here at this time. But as far as any ability to make that change at this time, it is board policy, and we have several steps that we have to go through in order to change board policy. So, but we'll be here. Okay. We have some introductions.
We do have some introductions tonight, and some new staff this year. So Miss Tiffany Dukes was here last night. Roy Walton, they had an open house tonight for parents and all, so she was here last night. But our first other one is Miss Paige George, which is Cedar Grove Elementary School principal. Would you stand up, Miss George? And you sat by the old principal, didn't you? Very glad to have her. She came from some of the coaching ranks again for our RTI, and then the assistant principal and all for that, and we're glad to have you on board with us at Cedar Grove Elementary. Just remain standing, if you will, just a moment. And our next one is Miss Lindsay Halford, Fine Arts Coordinator. And Ms. Halford lives in Murfreesboro, but comes to us from Williamson County, where she was with band and all. But this is the new position, the part-time position for our Fine Arts Coordinator. And she's finding lots of people that want to talk to her.
Is Mr. Holliday one of those?
Some good things I think is going to happen with this particular position. And then our next one is Mr. Mark Gullion, who is our Special Education Coordinator. He does come to us from the principal of Cedar Grove Elementary School. So we're glad to have him up here and on board. Then Miss Susan Lovelace is our PK through 5 math specialist, and she came also from the ranks of the intervention coaching into assistant principal at John Coleman, and now is working with the whole county as a math specialist. So glad to have you on board. We've not had this position in the past, neither had we the fine arts. So very good for this one. And our last name tonight is Mr. Keith Ryan Cartwright. He is the communications specialist with Mr. James Evans, and some of the news, things that you're seeing, releases and things that he is writing. He has extensive experience in writing. Is also going to be teaching a couple of adjunct classes in news and all at MTSU this fall. He's been asked to do that. So he has quite a bit of experience in that area. I think we'll have, so glad to have him. Any board member, anything you want to say or ask a question or something like that?
Looks like a good group.
It is a good group, yeah, we do.
Welcome. We know you'll have a lot of success, and we pray you also have a lot of success too.
Thank you. Facilities?
Number 8. Yes, sir.
Number 8, under facilities, the first one, A, is Energy Efficient School Initiative Loan Agreement for Automated Control Systems. On July 19th, 2016, on item C under facilities, Engineering and Construction brought an agreement to the board with EESI for a loan of $2,137,047 for automated control systems on HVAC units in 19 of our schools and 2 lighting projects. The motion stated that the administrative interest rate was 0.75%. It is since learned that any loan over $1 million from EESI or Energy Efficient School Initiative is 1%. Therefore, the Engineering and Construction Department would like to recommend increasing the 0.75 to a full 1% administrative interest rate on this loan, and the state provided the seed money to start this for schools. So that's kind of where it's coming from. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve increasing the administrative interest rate from 0.75% to a full 1% on this EESI loan of $2,137,047 for automated control systems as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Holliday, and thank you, Mr. Jordan. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take a moment here. I just want to say, if anyone is unfamiliar with the board's general format of agenda, there is a spot down at the very end for general board comments, and you just kind of hang in there. We'll get through all of this business, and for those in the room that may think, gee, are you going to have anything to say, we'll get to that down at that agenda item at the end. So pardon me, a little off topic, but I wanted to throw that in there because far too often folks leave us before we get to that spot.
Well, and that's also why I invited them to stay.
I understand. I know you did. I know you did.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. B.
B is the architectural fees for Rockvale High School, Laverne and Smyrna High School restrooms and concessions, and Rocky Fork 2-story elementary school. At the request of Rutherford County Schools Engineering and Construction Department, Binkley Garcia Architecture has submitted proposals for 4 projects. These proposals include Rockvale High School at an estimated fee of $1,962,000. Laverne and Smyrna High School restrooms and concessions at a combined fee of $15,000, and the Rocky Fork two-story elementary school at a fee of $1,204,000. Engineering would like to get these projects ready to bid by March 2017 so we can proceed with construction as early as April. This will give us the greatest opportunity for the best price since most contractors will be looking for and bidding their 2017 and 2018 workload. Also, this means that all of these projects will need to be through the full commission and funding approval by April 2017. The commission is aware of all of these projects because they have been on our building plan for several years now. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve architectural fees for the above 4 referenced projects as presented.
Heard the recommendation. Mr. Young
Second.
and Ms. Moore. Discussion?
So, Mr. Clardy, one of the most frequently asked questions over the past few years has been, when is Rockvale High School going to open its doors to students? And I assume that everything goes smoothly, we can say 2019 in August?
That's correct. If you will help us get the money to build that with and get it on time.
That's what I said, if everything goes smoothly. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion?
What will the square footage of Rockvale High School be?
That's interesting. What did we build Stewart's Creek for? What was the square foot for the city for the building?
It was close to 300,000 square feet.
But what was it square foot? You had,
Oh,
I'm
you
trying to
mean the
remember.
cost of it?
That's what he's asking.
I believe it was around 140 square foot.
I'm seeing some now over in Williamson County and all that's considerably higher than that. Another,
We've been using 180 since we got stung on the last job. So, if prices continue to go up, it'll get there.
Anybody else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. C.
C is the Rocky Fork Middle School contract and value engineering review. As discussed at a previous board meeting, after the bid opening of Rocky Fork Middle School, the Engineering and Construction Department has been working on value engineering issues to lower the cost of the new middle school. R.G. Anderson Construction was the lowest and best bidder and awarded a transitional contract for $10 million so they could mobilize and get Rocky Fork started due to the essence of time. The base bid was $33,987,000. Alternate number 1, LED lighting, was taken at a cost of $300,000. Alternate number 2, epoxy floor coating, at a credit of $70,000 was taken, bringing the total amended contract with R.G. Anderson to $34,217,000. The value engineering credit of $1,549,180.12 for site items such as storm drainage systems is agreed upon with all parties and will be credited back to the Rutherford County Board of Education through deductive change order number 1, bringing the total contract value to $32,667,819.88. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve the amended contract amount of $34,217,000 and deductive change order number 1 in the amount of $1,549,180.12 with R.G. Anderson Construction for Rocky Fork Middle School, bringing the corrected contract amount to $32,667,819.88. And for people listening to us, the board discussed what some of these value engineering pieces were last night at your work session. So we spent some time looking at those.
Yes, sir. Heard the recommendation?
Move to accept as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. And thank you, Mr. Young. Further discussion? Again, thank you, Mr. Clardy, for your clarifications last night, too. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. D.
D is on-site concrete and geotechnical inspection services. Mr. Ed Seiler has submitted a proposal for on-site concrete and geotechnical testing at a rate of $30 per hour for new buildings and additions. This contract would run for a period of 2 years at this rate with one renewal period of 2 years. Mr. Seiler has been doing inspections for Rutherford County Schools now for many years and always done an excellent job. This fee includes administrative costs, report preparation, fax distribution, and postage. Also, engineering and construction would like to set the on-site concrete and geotechnical testing budget for Rocky Fork Middle School at an approximate value of $63,360. Recommend approval of the motion to approve Mr. Ed Seiler at a fee of $30 per hour and set a budget of $63,360 for Rocky Fork Middle School concrete and geotechnical testing as presented.
Have the recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Estes.
Second.
And Ms. Moore. Discussion? Just had conversation last night. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. E.
E is structural steel inspection services for Rocky Fork Middle School. Mr. Billy Melton has submitted a contract for structural steel testing at a rate of $55 per hour for new buildings and additions. This contract would run for a period of 2 years at this rate with one renewal period of 2 years. Mr. Melton has been doing inspections for Rutherford County Schools now for several years and always done an excellent job. This fee includes administrative costs, report preparation, fax distribution, and postage. Also, engineering and construction would like to set the structural steel testing budget for Rocky Fork Middle School at an approximate value of $20,020. Recommend approval of the motion to approve Mr. Billy Melton at a fee of $55 per hour and set a budget of $20,020 for Rocky Fork Middle School structural steel testing as presented.
The recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. And Mr. Young. Discussion? Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. F.
F is a request for proposal, the light emitting diode or LED lighting changeout. Rutherford County Schools Engineering and Construction Department has been investigating the possibilities of changing the existing lighting in all our school buildings to LED lighting. The scope of this project would cost approximately $6.5 to $7 million with a yearly savings on electricity of about $1 million a year. These savings mean a 6 to 7 year payback period. Assistant Superintendent Clardy has headed up a committee consisting of Director of Schools Don Odom, School Board Member Terry Hodge, Director of Maintenance Kenneth Curley, Energy Manager Jeff Stacy, Assistant Superintendent Jeff Sandvik, and Lead Electrician Mike Walls to develop a request for proposal, RFP, to solicit a proposal from a contractor with adequate experience, expertise, and appropriate pricing for the scope of the project. The RFP is fully developed and ready to go out for pricing. A copy is attached under the tab section of the board's review. Funding for the project would come from TVA rebates, an EESI loan, and county borrowing. Once the proposals are received and a final price is solidified, engineering will bring this proposal back to the board for approval and permission to proceed to the county commission subcommittees and full commission for approval. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve an RFP, advertisement, and solicitation for Rutherford County Schools LED lighting changeout as presented.
Heard the recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Young, and Mr. Estes is the second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. G.
G, I think Mr. Clardy is up and is going to give you a status update on some of the projects for this summer and currently going on.
We have several projects going, as you know. And the first one is Rocky Fork Middle School, which we've just gotten under construction and started moving dirt out there. So we're a little bit late with it, but we're working very hard to make sure it's completed by next year to start school in 2017-18 school year. So currently we are blasting for utilities, blasting for excavation of the site, and blasting for the area of the drainage ditches and drainage ponds. We'll start building a pad at the towards the end of this month, John. And you can see some of the blasting and how the earth is humped up here with the blasting. And if you'll just move on through those. Doesn't look like a lot's going on, but there's a lot of work actually being done right now.
It is Rocky Fork.
It is. Real Rocky Fork. John Coleman Elementary School. We're making great progress up there. If you'll move on to the pictures, John. As you can see, we're getting most of the brick on the outside, pouring things, the ramps and things on the outside. Hopefully, we'll get the roof on by total roofing by the end of the month. So getting the rough ends on the inside, we've already started painting, putting ceiling grid on in the floor, putting in the low voltage wiring and controls for the heating and air conditioning. You can see the rough end that's going on in the rooms. So that project is on time. We will, during Christmas break, or a little bit before Christmas break, we'll be moving stuff in, start moving stuff in. When the kids come back from the Christmas break, they'll be in their new school. As we discussed last night, we have some plans for the old school building to move some of our different people in there, and also we'll start negotiations after tonight for Mid-Cumberland Head Start to be housed in the old John Coleman building. Roy Waldron School Addition is complete. The classrooms are filled up with students now, so if you move on with that, John. You can see this building, these pictures were taken before the paving was put in, but the paving is now in. You can see the grading on the outside is complete. The outside of the building is complete. Parking lots are done now. And you can see this is the gym area up there. We have a new stage right in under this building. New floor or refinish on the floor in the gymnasium. There's the new stage area. They're very proud of that. It's going to be an excellent deal for them. They have a very active drama class up there. And then this is just the connection between the two buildings. Restroom, school colors there, computer lab, classroom, stairwells, another classroom. And next we're moving to Smyrna Middle School addition and renovation. We originally had the bid for the project to open on August 25th at 2 o'clock, but we had a request from a couple of contractors. The principals of those businesses were going to be out of town. They wanted to review the bid before they went out. So we're probably going to extend that to the 30th. So we'll have an opportunity to have more bidders than we would have. David Urey is in the same thing. It'll bid at the same time that Smyrna Middle School bids. Then we're going to move to capital improvements. Eagleville School paving, we're getting ready to mobilize next week to start that parking lot at the back. And then if you recall where we had the sewer plant, the old sewer plant in the parking lot by the stadium, we're going to pave that also. Excuse me. I believe there's a picture after that. That's Smyrna Primary School gym floor. As you'll see, this used to have VCT in it. Now we have a different material we're putting down. It's laminated flooring with a about a 3/16" foam on the back of it. It has heat welded seams. So we're doing this. We're also doing Smyrna Elementary School with this now. We're getting ready to proceed with the Oakland High School roofing on the K section, and that will remove all of the existing modified bitumen roof. So we'll have a full membrane all over that school. As you can recall, we started all of these projects several years ago, and what a headache we had at that time with trash barrels sitting around with water. I think Mr. Odom, when he was out there, almost got hit in the head with a falling concrete block one time. It washed out of the wall back when it first opened. So we've made a lot of progress on some of these schools. Smyrna High School track replacement. We have been resurfacing these tracks for several years now, just repainting them, cleaning them up. But some of these tracks are reaching the place where we're going to have to resurface them because they're just getting in such bad shape we can't patch them anymore. So we're that's in our capital improvements, and we're putting that out for bid here. Since we own Red Hawk Parkway out at Stewart's Creek complex, we're going to just reseal coat that entire parkway plus all the parking lots and everything around the elementary and middle school. It's time for that. It's been, I think, that school's been open now, what, 11 years, Mr. Zago? Portables are complete and are being used. This is the first year we've ever gotten any money back from the city of Murfreesboro. So we're proud of that. And Mr. Drew Hodge did an excellent job on that. I'd like to take the opportunity to brag a little bit on all my guys, Mr. Trey Lee, Mr. Brian Yarbrough, Mr. Drew Hodge, Mr. Kenneth Curley, and all of his lead guys over in maintenance do an excellent job for me and for you and for the citizens of Rutherford County, and we're very proud of them and the job they do.
Thank you, Mr. Clardy. Questions? Comments?
Comment. The summer is certainly one of the busiest times for the maintenance department. When the children are not in the building, they do the big projects, and I know that those words of praise are well deserved.
Thank
you. Great job. Thank you, Mr. Clardy. Ready to go financial?
Yes, sir.
All right. 9A.
Cell phone stipend. I recommend approval. The motion to approve for Leslie Duke, Human Resources, to receive a monthly cell phone stipend due to the accelerated use of her personal cell phone for office use.
For the recommendation?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Second. And Ms. Moore. Discussion? Mr. Odom gave an explanation. I think Ms. Barnes, you chimed in some last night too. So.
Roughly 700 personnel
changes
this year, yep. Classified and certified.
That's several. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 9B.
This is a 2016-17 cafeteria fund budget. The evening that Mr. Sandvik presented the 2016-2017 cafeteria fund budget, our focus was on the general purpose school and capital project fund budgets. We spent very little time on the cafeteria fund budget, Fund 143. As a reminder, the funding for our cafeteria comes from meal payments, federal funds, and less than $200,000 from the state. No local tax revenues are used. The 2016-17 cafeteria fund budget presented that night included a new field manager, a training manager, and an 83.8312 hourly level increase for the clerk who handles the free reduced program and other clerical duties. When another staff member left, we were able to combine the duties of the two clerical positions and eliminate the other position. The two new positions were included in the budget because the state did their annual review of the school nutrition program last year. Their recommendation included a third field manager and that we beef up our training program by adding a training manager in order to provide the 12 to 16 hours of training that is now required every year for every school nutrition employee. These staffing guidelines and training requirements come from the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, which phased in through the year 2022. 3 field managers, elementary, middle, and high school, will work out of a school. Recommend approval. The motion to approve posting the new field manager position and a training manager position, and to approve a level increase for the free reduced clerk as presented. I read a figure last night, and since we have a new audience tonight, I'd kind of like to do that again, if it's okay.
Yes, sir.
We talk about how many meals are served in Rutherford County schools. So we count that because we do it annually. That's your lunch, your breakfast, and meals. And last year in Rutherford County schools, 6,027,109 meals were served. So it's a very, very large operation, and that's why we're needing these additional people.
Heard the recommendation. Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Second.
And Mr. Holliday. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. C.
C is the 2016-2017 capital projects budget. There are 2 carryover projects from the 2015-16 capital projects budget, Fund 177, which were not complete as of June 30th, 2016. There are Barfield School roofing at $271,436 and the Verne High running track at $30,702 for a total of $302,138. Each year, the outstanding purchase orders for these incomplete projects are liquidated on June 30th. Then an amendment must be approved to take the leftover funds for these projects out of fund balance committed for capital projects in order to rebudget these projects so they can be finished. The opening fund balance for this fund is $2,113,711 and will be $1,811,573 after the amendment. Recommend approval. The motion is to amend $302,138 from the Fund 177 account 34685 committed for capital projects, and to increase the budget for maintenance and repair services 91300-335 by $302,138 in order to rebudget the incomplete 2015-2016 projects so they can be finished.
Heard the recommendation? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Estes.
Second.
And Mr. Holliday. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, Mr. Odom, I had promised Ms. Moore the opportunity to share some thoughts since she attended the meeting at the legislature. Anything that you'd like to add before Ms. Moore shares her what she came away with
No,
the meeting?
no, not really. She attended the session, and my information is about the same, only what's been presented publicly or some releases such as that.
Ms. Moore, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to ask my fellow board members for your indulgence, but I do think that this is a serious enough topic that it deserves some serious consideration from the board. And so I'd like to take a few minutes to kind of give everybody a little background on how I found out about this and where it's gotten to at this point. Right at 2 weeks ago, there was an article that came out from Chalkbeat magazine. It was posted on Facebook, but this is an online magazine that's written for teachers and educational programs and systems. And essentially what this Chalkbeat article said was that our State Department of Tennessee, Department of Education here in Tennessee, had applied for and been granted a grant for the state of Tennessee to be a trial or a test case, basically, if you will, for a relatively new, I guess, topic. It's not a new topic, but a new way of putting it, called social and emotional learning standards. The State Department, and best we can determine, no one other than the State Department of Education really knew about this until this article came out. As a matter of fact, I've spoken with several legislators, spoken even with a couple of senators, and also talked with a number of people in the educational system, and at that point, nobody, not even our Tennessee State School Board, had heard about this new initiative. So I think that in itself alarmed me, that our Department of Education was approving and moving forward with a program like this without having discussed it with anyone, really. And obviously, apparently our legislators were pretty concerned too, because they did make a decision, our Joint Education Committee made a decision to add this topic to their agenda for the legislative meeting session yesterday. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But I want to mention too that when that article came out, I was inundated, literally, with concerns that were being expressed, whether it was on either of my Facebook pages or by phone calls and by email. So after reading the article and trying to learn a little bit more about this organization that's promoting this and asking us to be involved and kind of be a test case for this program of theirs, I went ahead and just picked up the phone and called Pat Connor at the Tennessee Department of Education. Ms. Connor is the director of that department. It's Safe Schools and something. I don't remember the exact name of it. And she is also the one that was quoted all throughout the article about this program and promoting it. I spent about a half an hour on the phone with her asking questions so that I could better understand, you know, from their perspective what this was, trying to reserve judgment with all the concerns and everything until I had at least had the opportunity to hear their side of it. In this conversation with Ms. Connor, she shared with me that the organization, which, and this was in the article anyway, I already knew it, is called CASEL. It's C-A-S-E-L, and the organization that stands for Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And this is the organization that's spearheading this project. And that we, the state of Tennessee, were invited to submit an RFP to be considered to be one of the states that would be awarded the opportunity, as the online magazine Chalkbeat put it, for Tennessee to be national pioneers in creating standards for emotional and social learning. So please remember in just a few minutes as I'm talking further that the article specifically said creating standards. They even quoted Pat Connor as saying that the standards will establish social and emotional learning as a priority in education. So during my conversation with Ms. Connor, I asked her very specifically for information about these standards, and her very quick response to me was to reassure me that these were absolutely not standards. She said they were simply competencies, is what they're calling them, that we wish to establish, and that as far as them becoming standards, she said to me, we're not going to go there, although some states have, was what she indicated. She went on to say that these were simply tools that the teachers would have available to assist them with something that our teachers have always been doing in terms of helping children as a part of their teaching program and process. Two other very pointed questions I asked her were, first of all, were our teachers going to be evaluated on how they use this program, performance compliance, so on? She also very quickly assured me that the teachers in no way were going to be graded or evaluated on this program. So I asked her also about data. That was a big concern that was being expressed to me. Are they going to be data mining our kids again, especially with getting into their heads with all this social and emotional stuff? And her response to me there was that there would absolutely not be any collection or reporting out of data on our students. And she assured me, and I told her, I said, this is not a one-size-fits-all for our children, and she once again assured me that there would be no data collected or shared with anyone. So keep that in mind as I move forward. In fact, she said that this is not at all what this is about. She gave me the analogy that this is no different than the character-related programs that we're already doing in our schools, and that apparently is already a part of statute, that we are supposed to be teaching character-related type programs and things to our students. I shared with her that just kind of a feeling that, or a thought that these are really skills and ethical-based things that shouldn't children really be learning them from their parents? And her response was yes, but not every child comes from a good home, and we can't assume that all children are coming from the same place. And she again emphasized that it mirrors the character training we're already doing, and it's, quote, not any different. She was also very emphatic that the program usage and tools would be strictly voluntary, and that the things would be there for the teachers to use, but that they certainly did not have to. That was also a concern or a question that I had asked. When I asked her the amount of the grant, she indicated that the state had only received $5,000, and that all it was designed to do, that $5,000, was to pay for travel and expenses for she and a person from her department to attend special national training that Castle was going to be putting on for these programs. So I asked her, I said, well, you know, after the training's over then and you start moving this forward, how exactly are we planning to pay for it? How's the state going to cover the cost? And the response was that there is no funding. She said no money to fund it. But then she went on to reassure me that the program really shouldn't cost anything. She mentioned that it would simply involve a class meeting every day with teachers taking 10 minutes in the morning. So keep that in mind as well. So that was my conversation with Director Connor. I attended the State House Joint Education Committee meeting yesterday. Again, they were concerned enough about this, especially after they had to have it brought to their attention by the press and their constituents, that they added it to their agenda. So I felt like it was important to be there to understand their perspective as well. All of the questions that I had already posed to Ms. Connor were addressed, along with many others. Some of the remarks, I just want to share with you some of the remarks that were made by a couple of our legislators that I found very interesting. Representative Butts pointed out that all of our teachers, she said, are already teaching our children these competencies every single day, and that I trust them to do that. So to add something like this, to accept this grant, would seem to be spinning our wheels. There's already a toolkit out there for the educators to use. So she asked Ms. Connor, she said, how does this new plan line up with this new program? The response was that the educators have been asking for this, that not all of them are using the toolkit that's currently there. Some are using programs like The Leader in Me, but that this just will give them one more resource for teachers to have. But Butts said to her in return, so why do we need to collaborate with anyone as to what our children needs are? I know that Castle accepts money from the federal government. Butts also read a letter that she'd received from a teacher in her district that I found very compelling. And this is what the teacher said. I've got some excerpts out of it. She said, this is just one more initiative that's making it impossible to teach because of all this stuff. You should see what the teacher's evaluation rubric looks like already. And with all this stuff being added to it, the harder we try to be a good teacher, the harder they're making it for us. Butts ended by saying that she felt like this would overburden our teachers, and she can't say that this is anything she would be in favor of, and she would not support it. Connor replied to her that this is not in any way going to add to the teacher's responsibilities, but that it was only going to acknowledge and validate. Butts again asked that if they were not going to be evaluating the teachers, then how are we possibly going to acknowledge and evaluate them based on how they're performing with this program? The response, and I would encourage anyone that shares this concern or is interested in this subject, you can pull up on the legislator's website and pull up a video of the hearing and listen to her remarks, because I promised I won't take up too much time. Ms. Connor answered that it should be very little. She said these things are incorporated into the overall learning program. I did notice that she didn't mention, when she was questioned on that, there was no mention of the 10-minute segments of the day that she had referenced to me the day before. That wasn't talked about at all yesterday. We had Representative Dunn that said he was really surprised to hear the state had only received $5,000. And his recommendation was to give it back and give it back to them now, because all it's going to give you is $1 million headache. The testimony that Connor gave throughout the entire presentation kept mentioning this information and data being on the teacher's rubric. Now, my understanding of our teachers' rubrics are that they consist of the things that our teachers are indeed evaluated on. So if this is going to be on their rubric, it would seem rather contradictory to me, the statement that they're not going to be evaluated at all. I mean, it doesn't add up. To me, it's kind of like 2 + 2 = 6, but of course that could be Common Core math, but who knows. But anyway, so I'm going to lay out these concerns just to give everyone food for thought. First of all, they only received $5,000 from CASEL, and if it's strictly for travel and training, how does this CASEL organization benefit from it? Especially if we're not gathering data to give back to them, it really doesn't make any sense at all. All throughout their presentations, they kept referring to benchmarking, also referencing the teacher's rubric and validating their work. Because again, when they would ask the questions about evaluation, they say, oh no, we're just trying to validate what our teachers are already doing. So again, the question comes up of, well, if we're trying to validate and encourage them, how are you going to do that if we're not collecting any information or data from the results? They say it won't cost us any money. I'm sorry. That's just a bit ludicrous, I think. During the legislative session, they actually showed a slide of the team from the Department of Education that's going to be managing this project. There were 10 people on that slide, and the majority of them had a title of director, I noticed. So just kind of trying to do some math in my head, I would imagine a director's salary at the State Department of Education, I think this is very conservative, let's just call it $50,000. You multiply that by 10, what have you got? And so to me, even, $500,000 a year is, we're spending money. And they also reference that this team is going to be going out through the state, helping schools and districts put this into place, so that sounds like a lot of travel expense money to me as well. If you look at CASEL's website, you'll see that there are many references to working with the ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, that replaced No Child Left Behind. So if that's not proof that the federal government's involved, I'm really not sure what is. They were very quick to say there was no federal funding, but it's very obvious that CASEL has very close ties with the Federal Department of Education. Real quickly, perhaps I'll wrap it up, Mr. Chairman, I want to read you some of the responses that came from some of the sources that I researched, and they're ones that I have the utmost confidence and trust in. First of all, David Fowler from the Family Action Council had this to say. He said, one of the competencies CASEL lists on this is pro-social behavior. What does that mean? In a society that is embracing gender confusion, unnatural and early sexual behaviors, what happens when a child does not agree to embrace these behaviors? Fowler believes that the goal is to make it such a pervasive part of the curriculum that the parents will have no ability to even ask for their child to be exempted. Jane Robbins, who is a senior fellow with the American Principals Project, has this to say. She says, social and emotional learning, parentheses CASEL, recently announced that 8 states will work collaboratively to create and implement plans to encourage social emotional learning in their schools. These states are jumping on a bandwagon that threatens to roll over innocent children and their privacy. CASEL is a big gorilla in the zoo of social emotional learning, or SEL. Having proved so adept, or perhaps having given up on teaching children English, math, science, and history, state progressive education establishments are joining CASEL to explore more esoteric pursuits. Better to diminish academic content knowledge and push SEL, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Says the average parent might say, wait a minute, that's what my child learns from me and at Sunday school. But CASEL and company believe that the government should take over in case the parents in churches aren't doing it right, perhaps teaching the wrong attitudes and mindsets. She says, so let's suppose that the government decides a child will be a more acceptable student and citizen and a worker bee, which that came up a lot during the legislative session yesterday, that the claims that the employers were asking for this. I'm sorry, I lost my pot here. So the government decides a child to be a more acceptable student anyway, regardless of his or her own moral standards, or if he or she learns to accept that all commands of the government must be obeyed. The student may fulfill the standard by developing the correct attitudes, and under whose authority does the government presume to instill attitudes that may conflict with a parent's desires. Here are some of the comments I've received from parents. Quote, "The state is now completely overstepping its boundaries, so now they get to decide how our children should be acting and adjusting on a social and emotional level. Whatever happened to individuality?" Another one, "I guess they've recovered enough now from the testing debacle that they can invest all our time and money in this." Another one, "I think it's a horrible idea. The government's already too involved in my children's lives. No more." The last one, "So now they're going to use our children as lab rats for their social and emotional experiments. Hey, weren't there a couple books written about that? How did those turn out?" So, to wrap this up, my opinion, and obviously I'm speaking strictly for myself, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. There are too many holes in this plan, too many discrepancies, too many contradictory statements and positions, and way too much concern from the public and the parents of these children, as well as our legislators, that it's, in my opinion, as the legislator referenced yesterday, give them their money back now. And let's just get back to teaching our children the education they're supposed to get, allowing our teachers to teach as they know best, not our government and not an organization called CASEL. I do feel like that we as a board, especially the board of the fourth largest school district in the state of Tennessee, have a responsibility to discuss this further and come up with what I pray will be a consensus that Rutherford County Schools will not take any part in this. I will also mention in closing that there is another meeting that they're convening on the 1st of September up at the Tennessee Department of Education in the Jackson, I think it's the Jackson building. So if anyone is interested in attending that, I will be there. They're going to be talking about the plans for moving forward for this. So again, thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Ms. Moore, and thank you for attending the meeting. Anyone else?
I'll just share that I'm thrilled with Ms. Moore's report and her commitment to this issue. I was glad to ask for this to be on the agenda, and it seems to me Ms. Moore asked the appropriate rhetorical question: how does CASEL benefit? I will say, though, that CASEL benefits when the state of Tennessee validates this effort by participating. And that is what is of great concern here. They are making an incorrect assumption that we're going to wave a white flag that parental influence is somehow insufficient, because there are circumstances in our society today when parental influence may not be what we would like for it to be. We'll turn that over to someone else. That's a wrong assumption, and we should fight against that vigorously.
I think this is probably the first volley that we'll be involved in, so it'll be a work in progress for both the board and I guess the legislature and the Department of Education. Anybody else? Again, thank you, Ms. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Insurance meeting again is this Thursday, next Thursday. Well, yeah, the next Thursday. Mr. Hodge, anything to add?
Nothing.
Mr. Holliday?
Nothing to add.
14 is some information only. The maintenance department purchased from TCPN, contract number R150505, a Dakin air-cooled scroll chiller from Dakin applied for Smyrna Elementary at a cost of $117,852 to be funded through capital projects. This is one we had on our list to be replaced this year. It just stopped working about the time school started, so we had to do an emergency replacement.
Okay, thank you.
And B, State Farm insurance donation The purchasing department would like to recognize State Farm Insurance for the donation of furniture to various schools in our system. 6 schools in our district in growth positions were the recipients of filing cabinets, tables, administrative chairs. Of course, State Farm made a major donation of monitors, computer monitors for us last year, so they continue to be a very good neighbor to Rutherford County Schools and the citizens in Rutherford County.
Very, very grateful for their participation and generosity. The system is sending a thank you note to State Farm. And again, we have their logo up. It's not Jake, the guy in khakis, but it's still an opportunity to thank them for their generosity. Okay, 15.
15 is a motion. This is to start negotiating with Mid-Cumberland Head Start. Recommend approval. The motion is to approve the negotiating process between Board of Education and the Mid-Cumberland Head Start for space in the old John Coleman building. Assistant Superintendent Gary Carty will representing the school board for the initial negotiations. And I guess for people listening to us, the Head Start is in portables at John Coleman area now. And with our new structure there, new playgrounds and all, we may be able to work with them to move those children from a portable into the old John Coleman wing. And so we'd like to talk to them about that and see if they'd be interested in that.
You heard the motion?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. And Mr. Young. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 16.
16 is a headhunter fee for Board Certified Behavior Analyst, BCBA. Rutherford County Schools is currently without a Board Certified Behavior Analyst. This certification legally enhances our standing when conducting functional behavior assessments and creating behavior intervention plans for students with behavior issues that impede student learning. We are currently providing these types of services under a contract with a BCBA out of Chattanooga at a rate of $125 per hour. Mark Gullion, Special Education Coordinator, has been contacted by a headhunting firm that put us in touch with 2 possible BCBA candidates. The position is budgeted with a salary in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. The search firm is holding firm on a fee of $17,500. Having a BCBA on staff will eliminate the need to pay the contracted rate for these types of services. It's a very similar service to, we do occupational therapy, we do physical therapy. This is one of the things that does recommendations and things for behavior therapy, and we do contract with outside organizations some on that. Recommend approval. The motion to approve negotiations with Solent Health for recruiting a board-certified behavior analyst, BCBA, at an amount that could come up to $17,500. Be glad to bring this back to the board. Our next meeting, I think, is the 1st of September. But this is a person that we've advertised 4 times this summer and through this year. We're not getting people interested in this. And if you'd like for Mr. Gullion or Ms. McLeod to speak to it, because she's involved with some of these, I think they'd be glad to speak to it. And you might want to hear more about it. This was new on our program tonight. We didn't get to discuss it because we were approached yesterday after all of our board agenda and everything was our meeting last night. So,
What's the pleasure of the board? Ms. Moore?
I would like to ask, and Mr. Odom, of course, and you know my thoughts on this because of the fee that this headhunter is charging. I mean, I'm tickled that we finally found a candidate that fits what we need. Based on my experience in the staffing world, I find this fee to be a bit exorbitant. So I'm going to go on record as saying I'm not in agreement with paying them that much money to get this candidate, but understanding the difficulty in filling this position and that sometimes you have to do what you have to do to find the right person, I do think it would be helpful for the board and for other folks here in our audience to understand a little better why the need for this position exists.
could we let Mr. Gullion, would you like for him to speak to it?
Gullion, if you'll please come to the podium, please. And welcome.
Thank
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, sorry.
Oh, he's ready.
So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk tonight about our BCBA. Like Mr. Odom mentioned, we've posted the position 4 times. And my understanding in coming into this position is it's something that is at the request of several of our parents in meetings. When we track behavior with our students and collect that data, they're asking for a certified person. In the limited research that I've done, it looks like there's about 5,000 of these people that are national. Nationally, there's 5,000. And I think it's an up-and-coming issue that many districts are facing right now. Like you mentioned, I had a person that had contacted me actually looking for a different position and asked if we had hard-to-fill position. I said, a matter of fact, we do. Within 48 hours, she was able to produce 2 candidates, which we interviewed yesterday. One of the candidates is very interested. She's currently living in Los Angeles, so it would take some time for her to be here. One of the things, if you guys are interested in know a little more information after speaking with her, we felt like it was the right thing to do to put her under a 3-year contract with our school district, because one of the things we're looking at doing with her is we currently have 3 behavior specialists on staff who are all interested in receiving their BCBAs, which would be able to multiply our efforts in our district. And so this potential candidate has the certification, has passed her exam to where she can mentor these people in that process, which typically takes 2 to 2.5 years to complete. And so in my conversations with this potential candidate today, I made her understand that if we were to go forward with that $17,500, she would be under a 3-year contract, so that if she left in year 1, she would be responsible for that. If she left in year 2, she'd be responsible for 2/3 of that. And if she left in year 3, she'd be responsible for 1/3 of that. And so for now, as it stands, this being a potential candidate, she is in agreement with that if we were to go forward and recommend her for the position.
Ms. McLeod?
Add a few things to that. Just to say that we previously had a BCBA on staff. She has left us beginning this school year to go into private practice because they're paid much greater amount in private practice than they are. Our BCBA previously and the behavior specialists that we have on staff now are paid on a teacher salary. So that's really not equivalent to what the certification that we're asking for is for. That's why we've taken it and moved it to a classified position so that we can be more competitive with the salary. We have dealt with, in the last 4 years, increasingly aggressive and violent behaviors in younger children. And you will find parents of special needs children specifically asking for BCBAs to do evaluations and to write behavior plans. And all of the due process cases that we had that involved behavior issues, we've been required to contract to provide that service if we didn't have it available. So I can't begin to explain to you the need for this position. Our folks are spread pretty thin right now anyway, so having this extra person on staff, but having the person who is experienced with this certification, who I think can take the folks that we have to a higher level and provide us with additional training and additional guidance, is really, in my opinion, with the things that we're dealing with in special ed now, it's just completely necessary. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, but it's just been, over the last few years, has been an increasing, and when you have folks that ask for these services and we don't have them available to provide, sometimes to avoid litigation, we've contracted out, to provide those services. But it's an essential service. I mean, I can't tell you the benefit that we've gotten from contracting to have these things done.
Ms. Moore, did you?
Well, and thank you, Ms. McLeod. I think you just really kind of answered the question, but just to kind of emphasize then the importance that this position really offers too is some insulation then as far as avoiding legal proceedings and the cost involved with those. So it's really a risk management protection as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Holliday, did you have something?
I was just going to ask, the individual that left us and is going into private practice, currently the recommendation puts forward that we contract with someone out of Chattanooga at $125 an hour. Have we explored the possibility of the person that left us and what their contracted rate might be?
We do have a contract with her to provide training at this point. We have not entered into a contract with her for services because we had one in place. But I suspect that her rate would be very similar.
That's adequate, that we suspect that would be similar.
Anybody else?
This lady has experience most recently with autism, am I correct?
She has been working most recently in a group home with teenage boys and collaborating with the school system, specifically with autism, aggressive behaviors. She has about 2 to 3 years of experience as a BCBA and as under supervision as well. She's currently writing curriculum in California for ongoing training for staff members there. She, in my opinion, and I was a part of the interview, is exactly what we're looking for.
Mr. Young?
I was just going to add, this is an area where we are open to class action lawsuits now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Holliday?
I just wanted to point out, and it's probably very, very obvious, but just because this gets confused sometimes, this board-certified person, not certified by this board. This is a person
Correct.
bringing certification from the professional board of, that they're a part of.
Right, they are master's level in terms of education, and then have this certification, which means sitting for additional classes and taking a fairly comprehensive exam in order to get this certification. And that's why there are so few of them. The programs that provide the certification are limited throughout the country. So we have posted and done kind of our own extensive search to try to find somebody, but just did not get any qualified candidates. So I think we feel fortunate that although this fee is quite high and it's not a practice that we're accustomed to, we feel fortunate to have found somebody with this caliber of expertise and experience.
Ms. McLeod, also, a big part of our success when we go into a due process hearing is the judicial reception for this person. Do you feel that there's any concern for this individual's reception with our local due process, our local judges, our judges that we'll find in Nashville, et cetera, with them coming from so far out of state? I only ask because I know that those relationships are critical and those judges having confidence in the person that we put forward as an expert.
I do not, based on the information that we got from her during her interview. She has the experience and the expertise that I believe would be prudent in that type of case.
Okay. Lastly, I just want to highlight that as we continue to grow in size and our county just continues to grow, we become, for lack of a better phrase, increasingly a target for those that would want to prove a point or test a judicial practice or theory of winning a court case for the lawyers to all get paid. For that reason, it is really good stewardship for us to do this as a matter of protection for the losses that we could incur if we don't have these positions on staff. I also want to compliment the stewardship that's being shown in the 3-year contract and acknowledging that this $17,000 plus is a substantial investment and ensuring the taxpayers that when we bring this person, or if we were to bring this person to our system, that they stay here or else they pay us back. So compliments on that provision as we continue this negotiation.
Let me throw in another figure which you as a board are probably familiar with, and the people listening to us. We put in place $5,000 bonuses for hard-to-staff position, math teachers, physics, so you're already paying that. If we still cannot find a math teacher or something, having to go for Teach for America, which is really a headhunting group that does training, they charge a fee of $5,000. So it can take us, if we have to go that route, can't find our own, $10,000 to get a math teacher in a classroom. So you young people out there listening need to think about what your majors are, and you may want to be a BCBA or something in math or something, because there's a greater demand than there is supply for these.
All right, you heard the recommendation.
I'm going to move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Mr. Young, and further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now at general discussion by board members. Anybody have anything? Mr. Estes?
Yes, sir. Last Friday night, we had a football jamboree at Blackman and had a very large crowd. And I just wanted to thank the SRO department. They had 46 SROs that worked that game. Now, they wasn't there the whole time, but they worked it in shifts, and they didn't charge us anything. So I want to thank them for their support.
Is that a shout out?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I want to thank the members of the community and those who have come and addressed us this evening. It is not an easy thing to come and speak at these board meetings, and it's excellent citizenship when you do. You've informed us, and we appreciate your contribution.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I did, tonight you asked for some attendance information. It's still early, so I did produce that by school, and we are comparing current numbers to the end of the first month last year, which will occur right after Labor Day for us. So we kind of same period to same period, so a year-to-year growth in that. The numbers right now is 1,135 or so, but we still have a considerable number of no-shows. Somewhere around 175 probably. We still haven't located, have they really moved, or where are they? So my guess is somewhere when we kind of finish this process that Rutherford County Schools is going to go somewhere between 950 and 1050 this year, knowing new students, which is another school kind of in that looks like it might be our growth.
Just pointing out, Mr. Chairman, that Oakland High School is up over 7%, and the city of Murfreesboro and its 5 high schools within its borders are up over 10% in just 3 months, roughly the summer. That's, I don't know what that is, alarming, amazing, troubling, but eventually expensive.
Your most growth is in middle, the three middle grades.
Right.
Have more students growth in the whole K through 5 elementary this year. So I think people are coming back to Rutherford County Schools. I think that's what we're seeing some of. So.
We've had a full meeting tonight. Ms. Moore?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to say to the group that came in and presented this evening, I just really have it on my heart that I want to tell all these young people out here how very moved and impressed I am by your dedication and commitment to this class, and for those of you that teach it. And I do actually have a couple questions I'd like to ask that I'm not sure were answered in the presentations. This seminary class that's being taught there, is the attendance that we're getting at that course, are they all Rutherford County students that are attending that class, or are there outside folks that are being brought in? I don't know if okay. Okay, that was my next question. So, okay.
And there's actually some that are going to a different location
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else?
Is there student leadership, student taught classes at any point? They meet every day, evidently. Is that correct? 5 days a week? Okay, are any of the classes student-led? Do they break into groups?
Yeah, we do exercises where students will break into groups. Either, sometimes they'll teach each other in the groups, sometimes the students will teach the class as a whole. And in general, we try to promote a very open discussion environment.
We're here. Anybody else? Okay. Great meeting tonight. We stand adjourned.